MVP was asked about, and I got to say this, man, shout out MVP and Hurt Business. Like, they put over Gates of Agony. So MVP did what he said. He was like, look, we don't we're going to put over guys we think we can help. And I said in the preview, I'm like, if he's honest about that, that means Gates of Agony are going over. They pinned him out. There you go. You can tell he's just looking at guys like Jet Speed, and he's like, I don't know, man. You want Lashley to put them over? Or like, you see this Bishop Khan guy? He's like 300 pounds, right? He looks like he could beat the shit out of you for real. He could, you know, fucking, you know, or Toa Leona or whatever, you know. MVP asked about his comments by TMZ inside the ring, where he said he has zero respect for Triple H. And he says, I stand by those words. I have zero respect for him personally or professionally. I can't talk. I'm in my Brendan Schaub era. I can't talk, B. And when I tell why, the people will be like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, he's like saving it for when? Like when someone passes away or when you write your book or something, MVP, just say it. We know what it is, bro. It's that you were in the locker room when he was politicking and being a dickhead, and he may have said some borderline racial issue around you. And even when Shawn Michaels was on that like Christianity kick, even Hurricane Helms tells stories like he was an asshole. RVD tells stories. Yeah, Shawn was still an asshole. Like he's still an asshole to me when I go around, when I'm backstage and stuff like that. So it's just that, man. He was around MVP. There was a time when people are like, MVP deserves a world title push, or at least a shot, at least a crack at that thing. And DX were there politicking in triple threat matches with Cena, and you know what I mean? Wrestling Cena at Mania. And so it makes sense, man. It makes sense. It's something to do with that's stemmed off into more, you know, and that's likely why MVP and Jericho don't get along too. Political, like IRL, Republican versus Democrat, pal, but also like political backstage. Jericho's a notorious politicker, you know? Yeah. Anyways, MVP talks about WWE pricing out their fans versus AEW focusing on grassroots fandom with affordable tickets. Here's the thing, man. AEW is not really focusing on that. They were forced to focus on that. Ford Focus. They were forced to focus on that because they're declining. Their attendance is declining. And even though they're doing that, their attendance is declining. So there has been an emphasis on profit with the increasing corporatization of one side without regard for the fans who help make the company what it is. I do agree with that, though. I do agree with that. Like WWE are saying, okay, the majority of our fans are just going to watch this weekly, and we're just going to focus on who will pay the absolute most. And until it stops working, we're just going to keep increasing the prices. And it is wrestling at the end of the day. Okay. And that's what MVP says, though. At the end of the day, it's all a business, and that's a good point as well. It is a business at the end of the day, man. You don't throw the orange out before you're done squeezing the juice out of it. You know what I'm saying? Wheeze the juice. No, he's in the juice. If no one is buying tickets, if no one is tuning into your shows, if no one's buying your pay-per-views, then there's no place for you to do what you want to do. So you got to remember the business aspect of things. However, I question maximizing profit to the point that you price out those grassroots fans who have been there from day one. Yeah, they're going to get people begging for like C-list AEW stars again. So, guys, PWT podcast episode 100 with Alfred Konuwa is dropping tomorrow. But if you're listening to this on replay, then this might be tomorrow too, or the day after. But it was recorded Tuesday night. Time cop. And we talk about his feud with Ricochet. We talk about the TNA NXT invasion. In depth, man, and Alfred's just so great to chat about. We talk about stand-up comedy a little bit, but one thing we dove into was Brett Lauderdale versus Gail Kim, and Gail Kim versus Deathmatch Wrestling, and Jim Cornette getting involved. So I implore you all to check that out when it drops tomorrow morning or yesterday. Time cop. This is a clip, and you're watching this a week from now. Either way, check that out. However, and check out his channel at Pro Wrestling Bits. However, Gail Kim got into it a little bit with some sickos. Well, not a little bit. She spent like all day one-ish, man, just arguing with wackos and sickos about the death match and then the Riho stuff, because she made some comments in the mix there somewhere about Riho. And man, did sickos go off on her. Man, did people call her... There was people coming at her like, Gail Kim, are you aware that Jim Cornette, who you praise, says that your says that like your race of wrestlers dress like schoolgirls and shit. And I'm sitting there like, what is Gail? Isn't Gail Kim like Korean? I asked Alfred, I'm like, is she? I don't think she's Japanese, bro. I think like it's almost, I don't know. It's just people just goof themselves up by getting so triggered, emotionally triggered in their responses, where they just like, I don't know. They just, the sickos never cease to amaze me. Some of the funny ones are in the sicko segment. And you guys can go, I could bookmark it all, but it would be all day. We'd just be reading Gail Kim's page all day, unless that's what you guys want to do this episode, right? So just go look at her Twitter page, scroll through the last 2 days, and you can see her not having a meltdown at all, but like engaging, like saying, fuck it, I got time, and standing on her shit. So what Gail Kim said, she criticized Riho. And the original tweet, what it said was, what did she say? So in a series of posts via Twitter, TNA Hall of Famer Gail Kim addressed veteran wrestling personality Jim Cornette's past criticisms of former AEW Women's Champion Riho. And Gail Kim said this: I listened to this whole clip, which I said I didn't want clips, but that's fine. And so here's the other thing too. People sent her clips. And she said specifically, like, give me a link. Like, people were like, man, Jim Cornette hates on Riho so much, there's even a playlist about it. So what? He creates content. Like, it's something he dislikes. People like hearing people clever rip shit that they dislike. It doesn't matter if I made a playlist ripping on mangoes because I don't like mangoes. What? Okay, who cares? Just because you like that thing. It's so crazy how people live in this world where they think like you can't have a difference in opinion. Okay, it's crazy. But anyways, the only issue that I had, this is what Gail Kim said, is that he made a comment about her teeth. I will say, and I haven't watched AEW in a very long time, but when I did watch Riho, and nothing against her at all, because I'm the biggest supporter of all women who want to make it in this business, but I did feel uncomfortable watching her because the camera shots would go up her skirt, and she was always dressed like a very little girl, and it felt improper. Now, for the people who get triggered by that, that's what it looks like, man. And that's why I'm a big proprietor. I'm a big supporter of when she returned recently and Riho, because Riho doesn't, her wrestling style doesn't trigger me. Okay. I'm all for like, if you make it work, you make it work. She doesn't do stupid moves. Her moves are her using her little size to like run and do like a ninja stomp and shit. I call it like ninja shit, right? It's just like cruiserweight psychology. She was there like power bombing and trying to do like Claudio suplexes off the apron and shit. I'd be like, okay, this is ridiculous. But she doesn't do that. So she does try to impart psychology in her matches. Like her versus Monet at All Out wasn't that bad of a match, honestly. But it's just the crowd was just sitting on their fucking head. They were just lifeless at that point. We were all just done at that point, right? With me, though, I said, Riho should be wearing like the jean skirt with the fucking, she had like the Tekken or like the Street Fighter look going, go with that. Go with that more. It makes you look more mature. And I do agree. Like, yes, it's kind of schoolgirlish, man. You can't argue that. And you can't argue if people perceive it that way. Okay. If you walked up to, I don't know, man. If you walked up to like 100 people on the street and you showed them Riho wrestling Monet, and if you asked like, what does she dress like? Or you just said, they would probably say like, I don't know, she's like a Japanese schoolgirl wrestling some, lady with crazy hair and a crazy attire, because what was Monet wearing? She was wearing like it had a lot of colors going on. I don't know. It was a really good attire though. I liked Monet's all out gear. It looked really good. Looked really cool. But either way, I digress, right? You like, I get it if you're like accepting of that and it doesn't trigger you and you're like into Joshi and shit. But I'm telling you, man, that's like a morbidly online type thing. Like most people perceive it a certain way, right? It's why Asuka and Io and them move away from that. If you can't tell, like they lean more into the Muda, the great kabuki-ness, if you will, right? Like they lean more into the Aja Kong and that sort of vibe, right? The Bull Nakano vibe and shit. And why? Because that just works better for the American audience. I don't know. So Jim having that opinion, that's his opinion. He's is it dated? Maybe. I don't fucking, but it's just like you can't get so triggered about that. And you can't try and drown Gail Kim with like guilt about, well, you like Jim, but look at what he says about Japanese Joshi wrestlers. That's offensive. And Gail Kim's just like, who gives a shit? 99% of people in the world are like, no, it's not offensive. Who gives a shit? It's like if people told me Canadian football's stupid or whatever the fuck. Yeah, the rules are different. I can't argue that. If you're an NFL fan, it's like, yeah, NFL is the superior football. I mean, yeah, I would say that, like, I couldn't argue with that, right? So it's just, it is what it is, man. People just want to force their opinions and force their thoughts and ideas into other people's brains and shit. And that's just like fucked up, man. But anyways, she says, I am also into very believable wrestling. Not everyone is, especially nowadays. And it was very hard for me to believe a little girl that was being portrayed of that size was fighting the women they had in that division. Okay, I'm not taking anything away from her talent. I'm talking about what I saw years ago and what made me feel uncomfortable. She looked like a very young girl. She does. She fucking does, dude. And that's why people don't like this whole like what Billie Eilish and Sabrina Carpenter do and shit. They try and dress like little kids, and then they do this like sexual innuendo shit, and people call it out. They're like, that's fucking pervy and weird. And then they have to switch their whole style up because people call it the fuck. It's not like this is exclusive to wrestling. And I'm not saying that's what I'm not saying that's what Riho is going for whatsoever. And in fact, I defend Riho and I get roasted for it. I have since day one, but I'm not saying that's what she's going for. But when someone looks incredibly young and they're dressed that way, I mean, if you're someone flipping the channel and if you go, that makes me uncomfortable, just like if someone's flipping the channel and someone's getting sliced up with a pizza cutter and it makes them uncomfortable, that's totally valid. Just like if someone's flipping the channel and they see Rhea Ripley's pinning Mia Yim and her trunks are right up her ass, dude, and her booty's jiggling, and someone's like, that's too much. I don't want my kids to see. That's totally acceptable. And people are pulling that on Gail Kim, like, oh, well, what about the devil's kiss? Yes, if a parent saw that and went, that's not acceptable for my child, who are you to fucking argue that? But is it as triggering as a Riho? I don't know. That's all subjective. And that's all for Gail Kim. She's saying it is. Is it because she's shilling? I don't fucking know. It sounds like she's not keeping up with all wrestling products all the time. By the sounds of this, she's like, well, I haven't seen Riho since years ago or whatever. But yeah, again, I mean, I could spend all day on this. Let's hear what Gail has to say. She says, okay, I'm not taking anything away from her talent. I'm talking about what I saw. She looked like a very young girl in a frilly skirt and the cameraman was up her ass. It just felt inappropriate to me. And so Kenny Omega had a reply. And it was, I don't know. It was an odd reply. He goes, another day, another legend doing the splits on it for the yearly TKO gift basket. I'm a superstar. So Kenny's like, another day, another legend, in quotes. Now they're trying to act like Gail Kim ain't shit. They're trying to act like Gail Kim didn't help usher in the knockouts, didn't help mentor and train, and wasn't behind the scenes hands-on, ushering in an era of women's wrestling that we see in WWE today, that we see in NXT today, while your women are being touted as the best in the world in AEW, Kenny Omega, the women's division that you're responsible for. And these bitches, sorry, I shouldn't be saying that, but I'm fucking getting worked up here. These ladies, I apologize. I really do, because they don't deserve this. This is on you, Kenny. You're the bitch. Okay. But listen, okay, from one Canadian fella to another, the ladies in fucking AEW right now are spanking each other with pork chops and mashed potatoes and making out and all this type of shit. And then they're doing like hardcore falling through barbed wire, bleeding, fucking tailgate brawl. They're all fucking doing thumbtack spots and shit, stapling pussies and stuff like this, dude. Listen, man, you need to shut the fuck up right now. And Kenny, I've had your back more than anybody. More than anybody. You need to shut the fuck up about this one, bro. This is clown shit to even say. 24K likes is crazy. when it's like, bro, have you seen your fucking women's division lately that you allegedly are responsible for, dude? One of the worst fucking divisions in any pro wrestling program. Meanwhile, TNA's still crushing with what the road, the trail that Awesome Kong and fucking and Gail Kim laid out for these, and many other names, but laid out for these knockouts to now be what they are today, taken seriously before even the women in WWE were being taken as serious to the same degree. You get what I'm saying? So Kenny, bro, you need to shut the fuck up here for real. And then saying like doing the splits on it, and he's talking about a woman. It's like, yeah, bro, you're you got a sick and twisted world of perspective, little boy. Now, what is your damage, little boy? You know, like, dude, what? I don't know if that's appropriate to say to a woman or in response to a woman. I just called them bitches, though. So who am I to talk, right? Almost did. I caught myself, right? And you should have caught yourself before putting this tweet out, in my opinion. But yeah, we have some sickos, though. They're like, Gail Kim still isn't respecting Riho and just disrespecting her nonstop. For me, wrestlers and fans should be inspired by her journey in AEW. Now, I covered this with Alfred Konuwa on PWT Pod 100, but Brett Lauderdale was like, name one memorable Gail Kim match. And Brett was spitting. He's like, look, man, a lot of these people like have this hot dog and a handshake mentality about deathmatch, but it's fucked up. And he was spitting, and then the last sentence he tags on there, it just blew up in his face. And I'm like, well, now I got to bury Brett Lauderdale, because he goes, name one memorable Gail Kim match. And it's like, bro, now you're fucking up. Same with Kenny, a quote unquote legend. Dude, eliminating yourself on a fucking televised Rumble or Battle Royal and just going, fuck this, and walking out is the legendariest shit ever. Kenny, you don't have the balls to do that, or you'd be in WWE right now. Let's be honest. So you wouldn't even, she has more balls than you too, dude. Okay. And she is a legend, man. She legit is. If you just look at wrestling as a fucking whole and like the history books, Gail Kim and Awesome Kong and TNA is, the shit. It's what legends are made of, man. Those are the fucking stories that get told forever. Those are the matches people turn on and go, they show their kids one day. And yeah, dude, it's so whack that people are hating on her. And then Lauderdale also said that Mantell, Cornette, and who else? Al Snow are fucking losers or whatever, old losers. And it's like, you're calling Al Snow an old loser? It's just a crazy thing to fucking say. Or like any of those guys. Dutch, like, come on, man. Dutch comes from a time where like shit was way different, like way fucking different. And then I'm sure Dutch did tours in Japan and shit, and it's still obscure to him. He's like, what the fuck, And it's just crazy to like call people losers and shit when it's like, Brett, I don't think you're like, what are you pushing 50? How old are you, dude? And then Lyric Wrestling just saying it doesn't get much tougher than her, actually tougher than Riho, which is possible. And yeah, anybody trying to roast her teeth and shit, I mean, that's just lame. Like, okay. Become more clever than that, asshole. But AEW star Kenny Omega seemingly responds to Gail Kim. And then Gail Kim responded to Kenny. She quote tweets it and says, if you're trying to beat around the bush and misinterpret things like the rest of the yahoos, let me clarify that you are wrong. Boom. Cooked you, Kenny. Cooked you. Okay? And you deserve that, man. Like, people are tired of you motherfuckers, like, getting mad because what people just voicing their opinions and shit. You guys just want to censor everyone and then blow everyone who just praises AEW. And it just doesn't work like that, man. Look at the ESPN rating for WrestlePalooza. Blew up right in Dave's face, blew up in everyone's face. ESPN rated it a C? Exactly. So where's the biased journalism? Your guys' turn. Dave Meltzer, WWE doesn't let any media in for the Saudi Arabia stuff because blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Tony doesn't let anyone in either. Alfred teases it on the podcast, too. You guys need to tune into it tomorrow morning. He teases a video of a project he's working on, and it has to do with that, the media and AEW and stuff, and it's a real compelling thing he's going to be putting out there. He's going to do a little, I don't know, one of his awesome videos that will surely EFAP. Maybe we'll invite him on to EFAP and get a more in-depth coverage.